Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, getting a handle on the Mountaineers, transfer portal, ins, outs, and getting ready for a coaching staff shuffle one way or another. We're into it all next on Locked On Texas Tech. Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. Post-Thanksgiving, hopefully it was a satisfying one for you and yours and our Locked On Texas Tech fam-damily. So it's great to be back with you. And no rest for the weary because we are shuffling right on into the weekend. It is a regular season finale, senior day for Texas Tech, the Duchendorf Cup, the battle for John Denver's soul. How many headlines do you need to sell this one? We got plenty as the Red Raiders host West Virginia for an 11 a.m. kick. And in this special edition of the Matador Mob Mailbag, Chris, will not only touch on that, but we'll touch on what could be a frenzy of activity, I don't know, just about right at the time the fourth quarter concludes, whether it relates to Texas Tech coaching staff, portal targets, incoming, outgoing. We'll get into all kinds of stuff courtesy of some of your questions on this edition. And let's waste no time, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good to see you. I hope everybody had a great and happy Thanksgiving, and to you and your family, Cowan, and to everybody out there that in Red Raider land that pays attention to this show. We certainly hope everybody had a good one. It's a very underrated holiday.
No doubt.
The commercialization of Christmas. I love Christmas as much as anybody. Heck, man, I may not even be home for Christmas this year just because of the Red Raiders bowl scenarios. So I don't know what that all is going to look like. So I tried to, and I wasn't home for Thanksgiving last year. I was traveling to Austin, Texas. Ooh. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, no,
stuff that day.
Yeah, that's right. But it was it was good food, good family, and good stuff. But now sports are on deck, man, and we've got hoops on a Friday night, we got football on a Saturday, and then we've got just a lot going on with the sport in general, the Big 12 title race, portal window opening up, National Signing Day, coaching changes are all going to start to domino out, and all kinds of possibilities here as we enter into the weekend here.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you guys among the Matador Mobsters for firing away with the questions this week, and we'll get started on a West Virginia front with this question from Brent. Do we actually have a good read on the Mountaineers? I know their head coach is under fire, but a really tough non-conference schedule against Penn State and Pitt has made the record maybe look a little underwhelming. Are we going to undervalue West Virginia? How do you feel, Chris? Do you feel like you have a good read? Are they in the Bill Parcells category of their record saying they are what they are? Or could they be a little bit better if the non-conference was different? What do you think?
They're just a solid team. They're not great, but they're not. If anybody that thinks they're just bad or what, I don't buy that at all. They have a phenomenal running game with a 1-2 punch in Jaheim White and C.J. Donaldson. They have arguably one of the top left tackles in the country in Wyatt Milam that's going to be drafted. I mean, I think the draft folks certainly think that, that's their quarterback has run for nearly 700 or 800 yards. Garrett Green, he's missed some time. I think he hasn't been as good in the passing game. They've got some injuries on defense that I think has hampered them. And they've obviously made a change with defensive coordinator. But they're 3-1 in Big 12. I take that back. They're 3-1 on the road total, but they're 3-0 in Big 12 road games. Now, wow. you look at it. I mean, that's a win in Cincinnati. That's a win in Stillwater. And that's a win. I'm trying to remember who the other one was against. I know it was Cincinnati. I know it was in Stillwater. Oh, it was in Tucson. Yeah. So that is, I guess okay. But still, winning games away from home. The problem with Neal and his team this year is they just haven't played well at home against some, better opponents, and there's not a win on their schedule that I think the fans can sink their teeth into. That's been, I think, something and they lost both rivalry type games in the non-conference. I've often wondered why they scheduled so tough in the non-conference, because it's one thing to have the rivalry games, but when you load it up and then you have a whole conference schedule, it's just a lot to ask. And I get people want more. I just always thought that West Virginia's fans still think that they're in the Big East, and this isn't the Big East Conference. When they only had like 1 or 2 games a year they had to focus on, like University of Miami and maybe like a Virginia Tech, and then everybody else you were just rolling over. That's not what this is anymore. And anyway, but I think they'll be solid for sure. What is interesting about this matchup, when you compare head to head here, they are bad with their pass defense. You're obviously really good. They are really good running the football, top 20 in the country. They're going to run it for about 200 yards a game on average. And their quarterback is a big part of that. And he's really fast. And we just kind of saw what happened to you. So it's kind of strength versus weakness and strength versus weakness on either side of the ball, depending on how you look at things. They'll play, to me, they will play like a 3-man front, and they will try to play it back to where they keep everything in front of them. They'll probably try to make Taj Brooks beat them and say, hey, we're good giving you 5 to 7 every time and making you snap it again. We think that at some point we can tighten up in the red zone, or we'll hold you to a field goal attempt, or you'll commit a penalty, something. But we can't afford to get beat over the top and give up those big chunk plays. They are porous on the back end. And then I expect you to do the exact opposite on defense. I think you just say, here's 8 dudes. We're like, we don't trust that you can make plays down the field. So we'll see how close I am to being right. But that's kind of the game within the game that I expect to see. Shootout, ugly game. I don't know what you'll get, but it'll really come down to who is just most excited to be there. But they can absolutely beat you. Vegas, this is a 3-point game, according to the folks in Vegas. This will be a tight one. And I know people roll their eyes when we say this, but both teams, still have a slight chance at the Big 12 title game. So bowl standing, a trip to Arlington, it's still kind of, and I think that will all be true at time of kickoff and really throughout the game. So you won't know before kickoff, okay, we're eliminated or we're still in it. I think you'll both still be in it because there'll only be one game that'll have been completed, and that won't decide it one way or the other. And that would be Oklahoma State and Colorado on a Friday.
Yeah, anybody sleeping on this one, I think you're nuts. I mean, you could wind up with the same record if West Virginia wins the ball game. So you are inhabiting a similar atmosphere. Why do you think the temperature has risen so much with Neil Brown? This is my personal question, if I could submit one. Given the fact that they are bowl bound, and I mean, like I said, they're potentially a team that would have the same record as a Texas Tech, whose head coach is on a comfortable seat.
Well, and they just won 9 games last year. I think what people will because they won 9. I mean, again, around here, if you win 9, I'm like, let's
roll, baby.
Yeah, that's right. And let's keep building. And you want more, obviously. I think the crux is Neil's said a few things up there that have stirred the pot a little bit. I think he gets a bad rap personally. I think he's a really good coach. He's like Joey. He's very honest and transparent, maybe to his own detriment sometimes, according to the folks up there. I don't know. There's been fire Neil Brown billboards. There's been planes that have been threatened to be flying over with the banners up there. And I'm like, they won 9 games. They're going to a bowl game again. Part of me looks at it and goes, who do you think you are?
100%.
Yeah, but then you get the fans are like, we want to win the championship and all that. And I'm like, so I don't know.
And as far as the comments, to me, that's a little more just like keep it on Twitter kind of thing as far as the reaction. If you're winning football games, I know they're not to the extent they want, but if you are, so many of these things to me are easily just swept aside. Because I think the one I'm thinking about is, did you have fun at the game today?
Yeah.
that comment. It's kind of like Gundy, too, telling his fans, hey, you can't even afford, French toast or whatever. but he wins, so it's kind of like, all right, let's just sweep that aside.
Yeah, at the time he was kind of talking about, man, I hope that everybody is able to come out and enjoy the presentation. We wish we'd play better, but usually the weather's good. I mean, he just kind of went in this hang, and I think he was just being brutally honest, But at the end of the day, people sometimes go, I don't care, just win. The main crux is they haven't had enough wins over ranked teams, so he hasn't beaten enough good teams. But they're going to owe him, and staff somewhere between like $9 to $14 million, give or take. I don't know exactly what the number is, but there's a lot of folks that would have to be paid off to go away. I don't know if West Virginia's got that kind of money, and then to go turn around and go, okay, now we got to go hire somebody that we really like. That probably costs you something. And oh, by the way, we still owe our athletes $21-ish million next year. I mean, that's just a lot of scratch. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. But I expect all of these things to start to play out fairly quickly, into next week, because coaches and administrations can't afford it not to, because if you screw up with your timing in the coming weeks, it really affects what your season looks like 9 months from now. Who you hired, who you signed, who you went after in the portal, all the stuff. So it's you need to have a plan and execute it fairly quickly, but it's tricky, and there's a lot of money at stake in some of these cases,
to say the least. Yeah. Tricky and a lot of money. No doubt about that. All right, looking forward to this one coming up on Saturday. Hopefully the Red Raiders finish it the right way. It will be the final day that we see Taj Brooks on the Jones Stadium turf. And Chris, we had probably a handful or more asking a similar question to this, so I apologize if I leave someone out. But I know Lisa asked about this, Josh asked about this, Jonathan asked about this, William asked about this, all having to do with, and we're playing a game, I guess, kind of hypothetically here when I ask this question, that your offensive approach will remain the same next year with your OC, or your OC will remain the same next year. But they're asking about the evolution of Tech's offense post Taj Brooks. And I think even more so specifically that stable of running backs. How do you expect to see that depth chart kind of ebb and flow? Additions possibly made? Are they looking in the transfer portal, or not? Do they have what they feel like they need in the house or in the pipeline? What do you think about the future of that position post 28?
First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite event again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app, where you're going to find the best last-minute deals, and I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. And of course, you're always doing it at the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that final brat, that final beer at your own pace at the tailgate, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime gives you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed.
What do you think about the future of that position post 28?
Yeah, so there's a lot of context here. That's assuming Zach Kitley is still coaching this offense. That's assuming that everything is largely the same with your staff. If it is, I don't think you'll look the same next year. No, and I think that's as much about your tight ends that you're losing as much as your running back.
Interesting.
I think that you're going to lose two really good ones, and you'll replace them with, or John Carlos Miller will move up. Trey Jackson may still be, but I could see them using a lot more 11 and then really just 12 personnel in the next season, and really trying to highlight more of your wideouts and things like that too. But you're not gonna replace Taj Brooks. You will. And if people may think I'm crazy here, but hear me out. I really think if you improve your offensive line like you would hope to, that's a big ask. If you do, you won't drop off much from a running game standpoint at all. I just, because I mean, as much as as Taj does, and he's going to be very difficult to replace. Just as a leader, culture guy, and all that, there are potentially more big plays out there to be had if it's blocked up. Whereas Taj isn't really, he's going to run over you, not by you and around you and goodbye. You've got some of that as these kids grow older, that there's some of that in there. We'll see. But it's really, that's a complicated question to answer.
Yes, it is.
Who's coaching it? What's the line look like? Can you go get a capable tight end out of the portal? What other running back are you going to get in the portal? Because you're going to go get one. And all that. So there's a lot going on there. I think that's probably
which timeline are we even living in to answer that question?
Too early to answer, but it will change. Yes, there's no doubt in my mind it will change.
I like some of the guys you got in house, man. Hope to see them continue to take some of these opportunities and run. Don't pardon that Black Friday pun. All right, thank you guys for that question. This question also out there on the other side of the football, Chris, from Cody. Has there been any talk of Jacob Rodriguez leaving early for the National Football League? He includes in all caps, please tell me no, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a quad exclamation point usage from Cody at the end of that. He's had a great year, really productive year, maybe even a little bit better than I anticipated as far as what he's done individually, Chris. Even thinking he could be really good. What do you think his future's looking like?
Yeah, he's got a decision to make, and I don't know what decision he will. His wife is in the military. She is a specially trained in her field, and I think she's being relocated from, at least last I heard, this was what he told me on the coach's show one time. It's like, yeah, she's, I think, based in Arkansas. She's basically going to be relocated to Kansas. So he'll either play for you or in the NFL. I don't worry about him going to the portal or transferring out or anything like that. But I think I would not rule out him foregoing his final year of eligibility if there's the right, feedback given to him from the folks in the NFL, and they'll get that. They probably already largely have it. I think you'll get a real. This is also why December is going to be pretty tricky. December is going to go by really quickly because, one, Thanksgiving was like a week later and really at the end of the month compared to sometimes when we get it on November the 24th or something, we're going to turn the page. It's going to be December here quickly. But you'll start to find out some of these guys and what they're thinking rather quickly on if they're going to play in the bowl game or not, because that will kind of tip their cap a little bit, or tip their hand, not tip their cap. Yeah, on what they're thinking, big picture. Because I think there'll be a big question to ask on. That's probably for another episode, maybe later this week. But what is this bowl game going to look like? Because your roster will look different. There's just no doubt.
Yeah.
We just talked about a running back a second ago that I wonder aloud if he would participate in said bowl game. So, and there could be a fairly lengthy list, but Jacob Rodriguez would be one of those. But you'll kind of find out fairly quickly, I think, on what they're thinking.
All right, Cody, thank you for that question. Let's stick with the roster. We had this from Mark, Brian, and a few others asking about any transfer portal targets that you could mention, whether it's position or specific players that are already on the radar. And then not only that, looking outward, Chris, but do you have a number you're rolling around in your mind as far as what the brace for exits, as far as Texas Tech players entering the portal?
Again, a loaded question that needs some context. I think at face value, you're going to try to bring in here, let's call it a 10 to 12. That doesn't count, though, what you may be losing, and you don't really know what you may be losing yet. I will say that, like the most serious portal candidate that they're in on right now is a kid named Isaiah Reed out of Brown. He's a corner that I think they feel like could maybe come in and start next year. It's also a position of need and one that's been stated as such. There's already some offensive linemen and a tight end that have already been offered in the portal. As far as like what you may lose, I'll just offer this up. With the way that the revenue sharing is going to like the way it's going to be, if you just have to hear me out here. Like if you are a younger player on your team and you haven't gotten to play yet, it's going to be really tricky for you to leave and go to another Power 4 school and make the same amount of money or even have an opportunity to go because nobody's seen you. They're trying to take care of their own players and all those things. So I don't know if we'll see as much movement from like your younger guys as one would think, or as if we had. Where I think you may get some movement though is your older guys that maybe aren't playing as much or that have been passed up. I think that's where and what's that number going to look like? I'm not real sure. Am I making sense? In other words, like you have a young wideout, and that's why I had somebody ask me the other day, like, dude, we've been running the ball so well, and then we decided to come out and throw it all over. Like, why are we running the damn ball like you say all the time? I'm like, man, people don't understand. Like you've got a boatload of receivers on your team. It would behoove you to keep those guys somewhat happy too, because they go, man, if they're just going to run the ball here, I'm going, peace out, man. I'm going to go find somewhere that's going to throw it to me. So
and that's a position group that's been really productive this year.
Yes. And there's just a lot going into what you do, why you do it, who you play, who you don't play. And you're always trying to win the game. Don't ever get that twisted. You are trying to put your best foot forward and win that Saturday, without a doubt. But if you don't think that there's certain things about who dresses, who travels, who we're going to put in here, on some of that stuff on either side of the ball, with the thought of like, man, we got to keep them engaged, kind of thing. You're kidding yourself. And, so for all the run the damn ball people, and we're right there at times too. And I think it's, you have to understand there's probably 6 fairly recruited wideouts sitting on your team that hadn't hardly played at all. But with that, they're going to get paid well next year with revenue sharing. And is anybody else going to do that same thing and take a chance on them, even though they haven't really played it all yet? I mean, so that's kind of because only the Power 4 is really, or are they just willing to say, I'm not worried about any money. I'll go play at, a group of 5, and I just want to play, even though I know I'm not going to get that much money or any at all, kind of deal, Yeah. So that's kind of the big picture argument to kind of get into, or the view of it. So, you know what? We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, this is like asking you, like, thinking about a sand dune field. Hey, and which way will these grains of sand move over the next year? Go ahead and predict.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many possibilities.
If I was an upperclassman wideout, if I was an upperclassman offensive lineman, if I was, and that may be really the only 2 positions that apply, because I think, like, in most cases, everybody else is playing already, then I wonder if you could see some movement there. So we'll upperclassman wideout, upperclassman offensive line, so that's what I would look at. Like, I mean, how about a guy like Jake Strong?
Yeah.
How about a guy like Cameron Valdez? I mean, so I'm not real sure. Yeah, I'm not real sure.
Brian also asked, and we might as well just engage in this final regular season week of the regular season. We might as well get Hudson Watch started. He said obligatory Hudson question. What's our temperature reading on the upcoming offseason for Micah Hudson?
Unfortunately, since he's been here, he's been hurt. That's or rehabbing. I think it's kind of that's what's frustrating, I think, for all involved, including Micah. It was just I think if you knew what you knew now and you went to look back on it, you would have redshirted him. But I don't. At the time, he wasn't hurt at the beginning of the season, but again, hindsight 2020 there. It's just kind of been a wasted year, theoretically. And he's a guy that needs a lot of practice. He needs reps. As good as Baron Morton is, people will tell you that's just how Baron is. He needs lots of reps at stuff to execute it and be good at it. It's not just, go out there and I'll look at it on the board, or go out there and like hear it told to me and like, oh, go do it. No, I need the repetition. I need the and all that. I think Micah Hudson is very similar in that. But I think he's probably slated to start in the bowl game. I think he's probably slated to start next year along with Caleb Douglas and Coy Aiken. Now, where would be interesting to note. I'm not real sure what they'll do there. I think they could theoretically move Micah, leave him outside and move somebody like Coy Aiken, put him in the slot and replace Josh Kelly. I'm not real sure kind of what all that will look like yet. But
man, either way, I like the sound of that trio. I really hadn't started thinking about that puzzle piece. Now it fits in next year, but
you can see that as quick as the bowl game. Like you can see that in 3 or 4 weeks. Because like Josh Kelly's a guy that I wonder about bowl game.
Yeah.
He's been battling some stuff, and he's got NFL aspirations. So just these are all things to like think about. I've tried to go through every scenario in my head, like the good, the bad, the whatever, and you just have to expect that. I mean, like last year, like dang, Miles Cole just didn't show up anymore. You had guys like Loic Fouonji that was in the portal and still played. Like, I mean, it's just like it's hard to try to grasp and put your head around it. But at some point, we'll start to find a lot of that out. But as it relates to Micah, I think he's probably frustrated. I think there's probably some frustration, but just because the year was just kind of there was nothing that good that came. But he missed spring. He missed a lot of the summer with the rehabbing and everything like that, and then. He was good to go in some of August, and then you try to maybe overtrain him or try to put him in a variety of different things. And I think that maybe was a bit of a setback. I think they would tell you that they thought he could handle it, and it just kind of got him swimming a bit. And then they finally kind of, okay, go here and learn this spot behind Caleb and all that. But then by about that time, he gets kind of dinged up and we haven't seen him. But I hope that there is a chance that he could play against West Virginia. We'll see.
Man, that'd be nice. And hopefully if he sticks, be some great progress made with some more time passing over the offseason, a spring camp, hopefully a full fall camp, all those things. And then that receiving core could really be compelling again next season. All right, thank you for those questions. Sticking with the transfer portal theme, we had this question. Brian also mentioned this in his, but Danny asked as well about, is there a process of kind of waiting on bigger targets to appear and how they balance that with sort of, I guess, connections or offers they want to make to guys earlier in the process?
This is the trickiest part about this deal, man, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
However, you may know what you know, and a lot of work is done around the country by the agent, by the player rep or whatever, and they are, if you just, I mean, I saw Lincoln Riley talk about this the other day after a practice at USC, and so much of the groundwork is being laid and done like in the weeks leading up to the portal entry opening. If you don't think that people kind of have a good feel for who's getting in, who's getting out, all those things, you're just kidding yourself. And that is the dilemma in some cases. I asked Joey about this the other day, this very thing on his last coach's show that I did with him. How do you try to determine, okay, we like this player, he fits a need, we kind of want to go on him, but what happens if in 48 hours somebody a lot better that maybe is just as good of a fit jumps in there? Like, how do you weigh that out? And there's no right or wrong answer, because it's just, you're gambling. You could take the sure thing, you could roll the dice, end up with, like, say, neither guy in this scenario, and then you're like, damn. So So I think that this is the way you answer this, and this is the way that Tech or most schools go about it. You try to do your due diligence, you're fielding phone calls, you're trying to figure out the lay of the land and all these things. But if you see somebody out there and you have evaluated and determined they would fit what we like, whether it's measurables, position, speed, whatever, classification, because there's some of that goes on to it too. Like, man, we really just want a 1-year guy. We don't want a guy that's got 3 years of eligibility because that's going to piss all of our young guys off. So there's a lot that it's like you're checking all these boxes like it's like a filter when you're Black Friday shopping. Like, okay, what size, what color, what brand,
Right.
and then you hit go and it spits out what are your options here.
That's $1 million idea, $1 billion idea. Let's come up with that website for the transfer portal.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things to factor in here. But I think if they fit kind of what you're looking for, I think you have to go. And yes, you may go in 2 days. Go, damn. We got another guy, he probably would be better, but I just don't think you can chance it because you could be left with nothing. And I don't think you're willing to, want to go that route. Again, it's all about your criteria, your evaluation, and all that. And you must pick right. You may end up with a solid guy where you could have passed on a great guy that you didn't know about was going to be there. But you, like I said, you could still have a hole there. And not have solid or great either, So that's because I think this is what happened with the offensive line last year. So many things were happening at the exact same time that you're on the phone, you're talking to the guy in person, you're trying to get somebody else here. It's like, well, he's telling me that they're offering him this, and it's like, okay, well, if we can get this guy here, we're not going to pay the guy that's here this much money. I mean, and are you being told the truth? Do you really like him? It's speed dating. And you can make some mistakes there.
They need the app. They need our app. They need our website. Yeah. That'd be great to be able to filter out, by GPA, or this guy's married. This guy has a side concrete business. This guy has got his driver's license in Athens, Georgia. Maybe want to X that one out. I can think of so many different ways to filter down these guys, but it's a tough balance. But I think sometimes, Chris, if you as a staff or as a coach are really sold on a guy, you like the guy, your eyes tell you like the guy, and he's willing to come aboard. At that point, he's coming aboard. They're in these positions for a reason. Their name is on the check, so you want them to use their guts also, and not always just kind of be peeking over the horizon as to what's possible when you have something in reality, maybe a little bit earlier. All right, thank you for that question. Let's get to hot seats.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle all the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet only $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and a whole lot more, all in one place. So when you get a hunch, a gut instinct in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a gut feeling again, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Let's get to hot seats. Had these questions asked about not only in a hot seat kind of context, Chris, because some of this could come about as a result of maybe taking a job elsewhere or being hired elsewhere, depending upon what side of the ball we're talking about. But Leah asked this question: do you think Tim DeRuyter's job is safe? And then we had about a dozen others referring to what we had mentioned about Zach Kitley and potential head coaching interviews as well, asking about shuffle for the offensive side. So feel free to fire away on either one, but you can also just give us kind of a broad blanket landscape view of maybe what could be some shuffling on both sides for the staff.
Yeah, you've had a lot of continuity in the last 3 years. That has been extremely rare. What you've had Clay McGuire replacing Hamby. You had Juice Johnson replacing Emmett Jones. That's been it, right?
I think so.
I think that's been it in the 3 years. And you can count, it's just two position coaches that have left for a different opportunity or were, it just didn't work out. I guess one of each. I don't envision a scenario here to where your staff remains intact after this season. I don't. I think for potentially a variety of reasons, as you just hinted at there, I think something will change on defense. I think Joey has said this. He has been very blunt about it. He kind of said it with a smile on his face and all that. But he pointed to his press conference, or pointed out in his press conference, our pass defense is just, it's holding us back. It's at or near the bottom of the NCAAs. It's just got to be better. Total defense is at or near the bottom of the NCAAs. Scoring defense, however you want to look at it. You've had 3 games this year where you just could not stop the opponent, and that was ACU, that was Baylor, that was Oklahoma State. And you were fortunate enough to win 2 of those 3, but it's just not a way of life. If Joey has stated repeatedly, we've got to be better around here on defense if we want to win a Big 12 championship. And I think most people will tell you, if you ever want to win the Big 12 or any league for that matter, you've got to be really in the top 40 on both sides of the ball in the country. That's kind of what it looks like. The only exception is, like, on defense, is you can be in, like, say, the 60s if you major in the takeaway. If you're averaging like 2 to 3 to 4 a game and you're plus 18 or something crazy on the season in turnover margin, you can live to tell about it if you're just not going to do it. But something will change here, whether it's staff, whether it's scheme. There's not much personnel that you can change, but something will give. I just don't know what that looks like yet. And it could be minor, it could be major, it could be something in between. I certainly get the question and respect it. And I think that Tim would understand that too. Like, we got to be better. I mean, Tim has said it. We've got to coach our guys better. Or either I'm giving them too much, or we've got to figure out a way to get them on the same page. So something will change. I don't know what. What that looks like. But I think it's fair to ask, you've got all this youth. Is that youth better now than it was 6 weeks ago or whatever? And we've seen glimpses, and Tim knows what he's doing. Tim has coached really good defense at times. There's people at A&M and at Oregon that got frustrated with him too. But I mean, I've been around Tim a lot, and I respect the heck out of him, and he knows what good defense looks like. It just hasn't really worked this year. Yeah. And is that, you can point to injury, you can point to youth, but at the end of the day, I think some are like, well, I just show me the baby. Don't tell me about the labor pain kind of thing. I mean,
of course.
Offensively, I think there are people that want to be in the Zach Kittley business. Yeah, I think that when you are, like, ranking wise opposite of that, we all would agree that this offensive line struggles at times, struggles all the time, is not very good, or leaves a lot to be desired. However you want to phrase it, pick your terminology there. And yet they have been, as good of an offense as there is in the Big 12, and they've been consistent, and they have kind of schemed it up. They have, been very balanced. They've kept their quarterback upright. They have, and figured out a way to score about 35, 40 points a game on average. I think that, and here's the tricky thing for both guys. And I think I'm right in saying this. Both guys were in the midst of a 2-year contract like a year ago at this time. Each one now is entering into their last year of their contract. Mm-hmm. So you've got decisions to make, and if I'm either guy, I'm probably looking at it going, man, okay. Like, if I'm Zach Kittley, I probably look at it and go, man, if the offensive line is not, and he doesn't really have any say so in the portal, but if, like, and who you go get and all that. I mean, the one guy that Zach Kittley's recruited is Will Hammond. That's the one guy that he's recruited. And that's just the way it's set up here. And I think everybody understands that. Coach Blanchard and his staff, I think, do a good job. But they they'll bring guys in and say, hey, look at this guy, and we're going to go on this and that. But if you're Zach Kittley, you got 1 year left on your deal, and the offensive line is what it is, you're kind of looking at it going, what happens if I don't get the same luck this year? I don't have Taj Brooks. I mean, am I going to get run out of here? I don't have any job security at all. So you're darn right I'd be listening to opportunities out there if those were made available to me, and I believe that they are. I think defensively, you kind of wonder what you do there contractually. With not that either guy won't go through just their last year and just kind of see what happens, but this is kind of game that you're playing right now. And each guy's got to be, everybody looks at it, how it affects me. Okay, what's best for me,
Sure.
and all that stuff. And so that's kind of, but I would just say that this next week could be very active, and not just on your campus, but really this is where it's going to be kind of crazy. Because for the lack of head coach movement, you could have a lot of coordinator or position coach movement everywhere, including on your campus for whatever reason, whether that's your decision or whether that's like, man, I've got an opportunity to elsewhere. I mean, that's just kind of how, because this is extremely rare to have the bulk of your staff together for as long as you have.
So I guess the first tie we discussed was Rice and their vacancy. They've made a hire.
Yep, that's not.
Were there actual conversations had with Coach Kitley and Rice? And do you think there's still, something relevant on the radar right now, or is it just more of kind of a speculation when you say people want to be in the business of Zach Kitley's offense that could come to be anything you have a feel for?
Well, and you're not sure whether, because the way this game, and it's a game at some point, is played, you don't know whether the school leaks things out, like the school with the vacancy. Here's who we're looking at.
Gotcha.
Is an agent pushing their candidate? Is there a media member that is just privy to talking to maybe a different agent that would be so? But I mean, if Zach were to be entertained with it, it'd be like a group of 5 type job as a head coach. I don't think he would make like a lateral move as an OC somewhere. I think if he were to leave here, it would be as a head coach somewhere, like what Sonny Cumbie did. And then if you do take a move, a jump, you have to then wonder, did I pick the right one? Because you look at it now and you wonder if Sonny is going to survive another season, or his name could be in the news, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
After his 3rd or 4th year, or I guess after his 3rd season at Louisiana Tech, because the job at that level with everything else that's going on is a bit trickier now than it used to be. Because of lack of NIL, or if I have anybody good, they're gone because they, so. I would just say people should pay close attention to the 48 to 72 hours after your season concludes. And again, not just for your situation, but because an opening somewhere, there's always domino effects. And I try to follow this stuff closely, and you have walking around knowledge, well, so-and-so just got fired, and I don't even think anything of it. And then a day or 3 later, it's like somehow Texas Tech was affected by this. And I'm like, I'll be damned. And it just always hits me right in the face. So you never know. But it's about to be crazy season, yes.
Everything runs through Lubbock. Got to keep that in mind. Yeah. I got to keep that in mind. All right, thank you guys for those questions. I mean, these are meat-packed questions because there's so many different ways that all these things could go. But we know that they will go one way or another. There's going to be
well, any of these questions could be entire shows for us.
True.
Yeah.
True. Jarrett asks about spending money on the lines in the transfer portal. If I just told you offensive, defensive, whatever you want to take, hey, Cody Campbell, line 1, Chris, you're the general manager. He wants to know what's the dollar amount to improve these kinds of things. Can you give the fans an idea of what the reality is really like, because it's so hard to get a grasp on? I think sometimes even knowing it's kind of wild, I underestimate what these dollars actually are. And maybe they're even bigger than they were, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah. Again, a lot of context here. This one is kind of like an answer that there's not any hard and fast, like, here's our budget, here's exactly what we're going to spend. I think it all depends on player. It all depends on need. As you go into it, when you've got a full, okay, we need to fill, because I think at face value, they would like to acquire the right, say, let's just go with 6 linemen. It may just end up being 5. And I'm saying that I think that's 3 on offense, 2 to 3 on defense. But it may be 6 total. But that doesn't factor into what you may be losing out of yours. So that number could be expanded a bit. So as I go into it, it's kind of like a draft. Okay, I've got what I think it may cost, or but it's all prospect specific. Well, this guy, may chew up a lot of what we have budgeted because he's that damn good. He is a can't miss. And then we've only got this much left over for this one. Or if you miss out on the can't miss guy, okay, well, now we can spread it out a bit and we can go because the odds are, say you take 8 linemen total, offensive, defensive linemen. The odds are, in a best case scenario, you're more than likely going to hit on 50 or 60% of those 8 guys. So 4, maybe a 5th one. Look at it last year. I think you hit on Vinny Scurry. I think you hit on Davion Carter when we look at it now. I don't think you hit on Maurice Rodriguez. I don't know if I would say Sterling Porche was a hit. Now, you've asked him to do some different things and all that, but I think you were 500 there. So that just kind of proves the point where you're at. I think that you were your percentage would have gone way up if you would have gone with the devil you knew versus the devil you don't and like paid Monroe Mills what he was maybe asking for. Because it's like, I know what I'm getting. I know that while he's not all world, he's at worst solid and all that. So yeah, that's an answer that is just, that could change every 15 minutes, depending on who becomes available, depending on what we still need. And this is why I don't know if they just had a bunch of money left to go spend when Maurice Rodriguez was available. They came up with it, though, because this is what it was going to take because of supply and demand. And I think looking back on it, it's like, damn, we spent a lot of money on a guy that didn't play for us. He didn't even travel in your last game. So that's kind of it's all about timing and all that. But they will have money. Others will too, though. Yeah. It's all about choosing correctly. That's really, and some would argue, heck, man, if you're gonna take 6, why not take 10? Increase your chances of hitting and increase your 50% or 60% chances by taking more of them. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but there is dollars that will be spent here. There's no doubt.
That sounds like great work, man. Get the cash. You don't have to go to Oklahoma. Sign me up. Well, are we talking millions, multiple of millions, 1 million? I mean, it's got to be over 1 million, I would think. If we're all these guys like, hey, this is what it takes to play. Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? It's multiple millions, right? If we're talking offensive, defensive line investment.
I would suggest that is probably accurate. Yeah, but I can't. Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows that. That's fluid. But sure. I think if it needs to be, it would easily be that.
There'd be plenty of teams out there that do spin that on it.
Potentially, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to make sure you hit on the right guy. Shout out to Great Ossaboard, by the way. I don't know why he's on my mind. Chris, before we get out of here, this serious question I do want to get to from Charles. If turkey and stuffing and cranberries disappeared from the earth, what's your new improved Thanksgiving menu? Ribeye.
Yeah, you can give me a ribeye anytime, man. I'm good. Yeah, a baked potato with a salad and I don't know, some sort of asparagus or something. I don't know. Yeah, that's solid work. We always, fortunately, whether I'm at my wife's parents or my parents, there's always some. Along with turkey and stuffing, there's always some ham and beef tenderloin as well, every Thanksgiving or Christmas. And then it's always like a tamales in a pre-Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve type of meal. So that's kind of what. And so again, if you've got all the different protein options, you can I could do beef tenderloin and just ham. Along with the other sides and everything like that. I just want to make sure there's quality pie options after it's all over with.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't, let's see at my sweet in-laws, there was a buttermilk pie. There was a chocolate icebox pie. There was a sour cream apple pie. There was a pecan upside down cake, which tasted like pecan pie, pecan, however you want to phrase it.
Sour cream apple pie. That's a term I've never heard.
It was solid. Very
got me intrigued.
Chef's kiss right there for you.
They leave the house unlocked on Black Friday, or
yeah. So that's what I'm more concerned about as opposed to the turkey and dressing. Yeah,
the party in the back.
It's the only time of the year where you really get like pie is served to you. So yeah, there you go.
We can handle the business up front, but make sure you're handling the party on the backside. I kid you not, on my stove right now in the steamer green chili infused tamales. And if you'll allow me to see you within the next calendar year, I'd be happy to get you a bag, Chris. But I don't want to ask too much on this Black Friday. Just looking for a win in the Duchendorf Cup. That's at the top of my list. All right. Thank you guys for all the questions. There's a whole lot to consider there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss nothing coming up, because we're going to be active this weekend and into next week, obviously, following the conclusion of the ball game. Chris, appreciate all the insights, man. Enjoy the final go round of the regular season. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, guns up. Hope to see everybody at the arena or stadium. And as everything unfolds with roster movement and potential coaching movement and whatever we're in store for, I don't know. Cowan and I will be here to try to make sense of it all. But it's head on a swivel season, folks. So, yeah, be paying attention out there. And guns up. Enjoy the time, the rest of the holiday weekend with friends and family. And we'll talk to you next time.
And remember, John Denver was a Red Raider. Country Roads is not about West Virginia. 'Tis the season. All right, for Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for being out there. Special shout out to the everydayers and, of course, our Matador Mobsters. Thanks for those questions. If you're interested in becoming one, you can hit the show notes, find the link there for a free 14-day trial. It's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. Thanks for being out there once again, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.